What is up, YouTube? So I am super excited about this video. It's one I've been wanting to make really since like I started this channel. It's kind of the whole like basis on what my whole like life philosophy is built around, the whole basis that I want to kind of build this YouTube channel around. So I'm super excited to bring it to you. And this is the idea of my mantra. I'm sure if you like follow any of my social media or see any of my pages, the Be Impossible mantra. Now, I know that right off that can seem like kind of ambiguous term, but let me tell you like its origins and where it started. So, if you haven't watched any of the other videos, I am actually a cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 18 years old. It was bone cancer in my right ankle, and I actually got my leg amputated due to that cancer. So my senior year of high school, I did 9 months of chemotherapy, 3 months, then had an amputation, then following 6 months is how it was broken down. And so early on when I was diagnosed and starting to go through treatment, I realized just how much that like when something this crucial happens to you, just how much people really watch you. They really seem to like notice you and latch onto you, and they really want to see like how is he going to respond to all of this. They expect you, and not in like a bad way that they think less of you, but it's just the natural expectation when somebody gets diagnosed with something like cancer, faces something like an amputation, that they're going to kind of shut down, be very emotionally taxed, and not really be able to have a whole lot of hope. But what I think is actually often the case, especially amongst younger cancer patients and younger amputees, is that in a lot of us, it kind of sparks a flame, it sparks a fire, it sparks a drive and determination to really go above and beyond, to really exceed, to really be an inspiration, a positive force of energy for those around us, and to make, honestly, the best example that we can in this instance. And so that's kind of what happened to me. I realized, like, hey, this is a really awful situation. I never want anybody else to have to go through this. But if I can just take this horrible situation and turn it around to inspire and affect at least one other person in their life, it will all have been worth it. And that's truly how I feel today. So the idea of Be Impossible first came to me. I remember it very clearly. I was laying in my bed one night thinking like, I need to come up with something to stand behind. I'm a very symbolic person, so it naturally like occurred to me like, I need a motto, a phrase, a slogan, something to stand behind, something to ignite that flame in people, something to show them what I do, and this is how I get through it. And I just kind of sat down and thought, and I'm like, you know what? This this cancer amputation, all of this it's an impossible problem. It is impossible. Like, I can't, at that time I still couldn't even fathom like what was happening to me. I hadn't been amputated at this point, and like the thought of an amputation was just like I knew what an amputation was, obviously, but I never met anybody who'd been amputated. It was almost kind of like a fantasy thing to me, and so I was like, wow, this is like an impossible situation, but I know that I can get through it. Yeah, it's really hard, the hardest thing I've ever done, but I know that I can get through it. I'm like, how can I get through it if it's impossible? And I realized that to do the impossible, you must become impossible. And I actually keep this, my parents got this for me. It's this little stone tablet that is engraved, and I keep it on my desk, and I swear I read this every single day. Being in pharmacy school, very difficult, and there are times when I'm just like, how am I even going to do this? I look at this guy right here, and it says, when you are faced with the impossible, be impossible, and you will do the impossible. And so that was actually an excerpt from a speech I gave at my high school graduation that year. It was actually like 10 days before I was amputated. So that was almost 5 years ago. I will have been an amputee for 5 years in June. So yeah, that was really kind of a cool moment for me. And I was actually going to pull up that speech and read it on this video for you guys. And then I pulled it up and I read through it, and I was like, wow. I am still very proud of everything I said. I still agree with everything I said 100%. I think it's very true, and definitely still the way that I live my life. But I was a high schooler, and as many of you know, high schoolers don't always have the most eloquent language, and that's something I've always kind of prided myself in. I think that I have a very good way with words, especially in written text, and so back then, I think I was proud of it back then for my capabilities, but obviously 5 years later, I've been able to grow significantly since then. So it wasn't something that I wanted to read to you guys just quite yet, but I think I am actually going to go back and revise it, just kind of rewrite it in more of an eloquent, written sense. All of the main ideas, core principles, and everything, even the structure is going to stay the same. Just the wording, the diction, I'm super, super picky about everything, so I picked that apart right away. But really kind of to go into, I guess you could say, the meat and potatoes of what Be Impossible is. There are so many things you can be faced with in your life, anxiety, depression, overloaded schoolwork, losing jobs, relationship issues, cancer, disease, anything, honestly. If, it can seem like an impossible problem. And what's interesting about it is that what may seem like an impossible problem to somebody may not seem like an impossible problem to somebody else. So it's all kind of relative based off of your life experiences. And there is no problem out there that is too small or too big to be an impossible problem. It's all just dependent on what you've experienced in your life. And, if you have an exam coming up and it is the biggest challenge you've faced in your life, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And that may be your impossible problem. What you need to do is develop this Be Impossible mindset to conquer it. And that's truly what it is it's a mindset. It's not one specific action thing you can or cannot do. It's all in how you approach everything in your life. When you look at this problem, it's okay to look at this and be like, this is impossible. Like, I can't do this, so I need to change myself and make myself beyond something that I currently am. So the whole idea behind Be Impossible is, yes, this is an impossible problem, so I'm going to need an impossible version of myself to solve it. And that impossible version of yourself is somebody who is even stronger than you currently are, somebody who holds even stronger core values than you currently do, somebody who is more positive, more compassionate, and more loving than you currently are. And you need to make yourself become that person who is willing to go the extra mile, to do the extra distance, to do the extra hour of studying, to, put the extra hour of time in a relationship, to, go the extra mile every time, and you will conquer that problem. Now, one thing I wanted to definitely make sure I touch on here is that I'm not trying to say that if somebody's facing a problem like cancer and they don't beat cancer, that they weren't in the Be Impossible mindset and that they failed. I'm not trying to say that at all. Because something like a physical disease, even with an exam, whether you pass or fail, the failure, the not being able to beat the disease is not failure in Be Impossible. To be impossible, all you have to do to succeed is to strive to be that better version of yourself every single day, day in and day out, with all of your heart. And there will be hard days. There are always hard days. I am generally a pretty positive person. I have days where I just can't even get out of bed, hardly. I am just so messed up inside. And so I do definitely empathize with that. And it is so hard to motivate yourself, and it's okay to have those days. Just find those sources in your life, whether that's a close friend you have, boyfriend, girlfriend, even if it's just like poetry or music, or even like reading science research articles. If whatever your outlet is to release that emotion, to vent that into, so that the next day you can start over fresh, reaching and looking towards those same goals. That is how you succeed at Be Impossible. It's not to necessarily conquer or beat the problem, although this better of yourself version of yourself will certainly give you the capability to do so, I believe. It's just more of trying every single day to become that person, and to always be that person that's a better version of yourself that will be better at conquering the problem that you have. That is how you be impossible. So I really get excited about this. I love the idea of be impossible. Actually, just got this over the weekend. Be impossible. Lids. I don't know if Lids is everywhere in America. It's a hat store, basically. I know we have a lot of them in Ohio, so it's a great place. They do custom stitching like this, and I'm super, super excited about this hat, because it's just another like physical, symbolic reminder in my daily life of what Be Impossible is. If you guys have any questions, any Be Impossible awesome stories, I would love to hear them. Like I said, I get really super fired up about this. If you guys have any differing opinions, feel free to let me know. Anything you think you can add or take away from this, feel free to let me know. I'm always open to criticism, as long as it's constructive criticism and not just like annoying, trying to trash everything I say criticism. So if it's got a purpose, I love criticism. I love to grow and to develop. That's how we be impossible. So that's my challenge to you, as always. Stay positive, be limitless, and be impossible every day, and you will always succeed, no matter what. Thank you.